All right, seems like this might be live. Find out for sure, hopefully. Any moment now. Testing. Play the video. Seems like this might be live. Find out for sure. That sounds like me. Yeah. Could have been somebody else, but it isn't. All right, let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. And we have this left over. So I thought I would talk a little bit. This guy McPherson guy being interviewed by Head in the Box guy and the other guy on whatever their show is. Just 2 minute intro they play, and I can't remember, some reality something or other. It's not bad. They should invite me on. But anyway, so I did talk to the guy McPherson guy a few years ago for Vlogger Dome. Basically an extinctionist kind of philosophy. But underlying it, he seems like an optimist, and that bothers me. In terms of he just seems to see, oh, we have a couple of these little problems, and if we fix these little problems, everything will be okay. And so he really just doesn't get the fact that it's built into the consuming system, and he'll actually describe that in terms of talking about evolution, which we might get to later on here. And but it's like he thinks that only applies to human beings. It's okay if animals live in shit. Somehow it's below the dignity of human beings, though. But it's okay for the animals. And I just don't get that shit. So, no, that's no good. I don't even know what this. A matter. It's not even materialist. I mean, I don't even. Why would people even play with this materialism? Of course, I'm a realityist. Yes, I think there's things, and then between the things are not things, nothing. So there's nothing, and then there's something. You believe something else. You believe there's some things, and there's nothings, and there's gods, and there's what, gremlins, and what, fairy godmothers. What? 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 These people are so fucking. I don't know. It's like asking. I mean, you might as well just ask, do you believe in sticking your head up your ass? I mean, it's almost insulting the very idea of rational thought to have to ask somebody, do you believe in rational thought? Because obviously that's what you're basically asking. You're saying, do you believe in irrational characters are real? Are irrationally abstract concepts are real? No, I don't. I believe we have an imagination that makes things up. I mean, it's just stupid. Well, whatever. Numbers aren't material, but whatever. A number of things is a ness quality, which means it's kind of it's not. I wouldn't call it abstract, but it's not a material quality. It's conceptual quality. We cannot see everything because of limitations of our viewing equipment. Whatever. Fuck you. We see everything we need to see. There's nothing we aren't seeing that needs to be seen, frankly. I mean, all you really want to do is know, how does the game work? We can see that. Anyway, I'll stop reading comments. Get on to my business. All right, so I came up in the conversation at one point, and so I just wanted to reiterate positions. And so the Head in the Box guy is obviously a fan of me. So the Head in the Box guy is the guy with glasses. This other guy is the other guy, and this is Guy McPherson over here. And so he's sort of an extinctionalist. Like, apparently he's now talking a lot more, I guess, than maybe a few years ago about how we have some imminent environmental problem. And I would argue that we have lots of problems, but they're not problems that are going to cause extinction. They're just going to cause huge degrades in how people live. Like, yes, 1 billion people could starve to death, 10 years from now. there could actually be 1 billion people that die of starvation. But it won't mean the extinction of the human race. And I said, it's been demonstrated. All you have to do is give people the tiniest bit of food, and they'll have babies on floating garbage piles. I mean, they just will, because they're stupid. And most of the human beings are incredibly stupid. So they'll just keep being stupid, and they'll just find out some new way to live. They'll eat almost anything, and they'll survive. Right now, there's some guy going out in his yard with a hot frying pan, waving it in flies to make a fly burger. I mean, he's doing it right now. He's doing it right now. He's waving a hot frying pan in the flies to make his dinner. Right now. Jeez. Bill Cosby gets 3 to 10 years sexual assault. What do you think? It's not even sexual assault. He drugged people. Frankly, he should get more years just for the idea that he think he had the right to go out and drug people. That's kind of disgusting behavior. Oh, shit. I just, it should happen to you, fucker. That's all I can say. Let it happen to your daughter. Then we'll see how many years you think somebody should get for it. Ugh, anyway. Where was I? Playing the video. That's where I was.
Human species is what now? Insane?
Has failed.
Okay,
I don't
yes.
Okay, let me turn. I think I have it sped up because I'm that kind of person.
I don't think I can look at a work by Leonardo da Vinci or Monet or Manet or Nietzsche, for that matter.
Nietzsche. So he brings Nietzsche into this crap. A work of crappy, complainy poetry as, human beings are just so magnificent. I can't imagine not thinking that's worth lots of dead babies and lots of cancer and all the people who died of syphilis and certainly all the people who died of the Black Plague and that slow, horrible 2-week process. I think that was all worth it for one of those Monet paintings. Oh. I mean, I hate that horse shit. I hate this crap that, wow, look at that beautiful ballet. And, it's just, yes, it's worth actually stabbing people in the eye because that's what cancer does or something. Let's give cancer to somebody right in their eyeball. Let's have a little knife and we'll decide to stick cancer in people. And, that ballet makes it all worthwhile. I just hate that kind of baby talk. It's all that is, frankly. I mean, it's one thing to just sit there and say, look, we have this really great thing, this brain. I mean, it's really great that we can invent and process the world like we're really good robots and we can perform as robots really well. And we can make devices and we can figure out blueprints and we can build it and, we can do, really, it's really quite great that something that came from slime, replicating green slime, has evolved over hundreds of millions of years. And we have these really impressive tools, but they're just impressive tools. And they're only impressive in a sense because we know what it was built out of. We know how much it cost to get these tools and how many other organisms are left without them. And so I can understand having some sense of humility or appreciation for being one of the luckily bestowed individuals that can sit here and actually think and understand and do some of this creation work. But it's not worth anything. It's not worth torturing one single little bunny rabbit. Not one. It's not worth, a bad case of diarrhea. It's just not. All of it. Piled up. Shakespeare, all of it. Everything, all of it piled up isn't worth it. It's worth nothing. It's a delusion to think it's an accomplishment. It's like being impressed by Frankenstein. I mean, Frankenstein's impressive, 8 feet tall. Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of it's theater, big shoes and stuff. I mean, if he didn't have the right wardrobe, it wouldn't come off as, if they put him in a fairy dress, wouldn't be quite as impressive. But yes, you can give it a gnarly award or something, but it's it. That doesn't mean anything. It's a subjective human thing. Doesn't have any merit as an intelligent commentary or an intelligent award bestowed. But even to bring up crap like Monet, sissy paintings, and frickin' Nietzsche, girly philosophy, complainy, whiny little bitch. Not a single solution anywhere.
I don't think I can look at one of their works and say, "Yep, complete failure, that Homo sapien."
Yes, well, I guess that isn't the whole argument. But if you're going to say complete resurrection or complete restoration, like that makes it all worthwhile, and that's sort of what he's implying. It just doesn't mean anything. It is a complete failure. It's a grotesque failure. You've harmed and brutalized and tortured millions or billions of sentient creatures and your own children, your own kind, to say what? I survived. And put a flag in it. No, I'm sorry. It's not worth it.
Guy, I do remember, I guess maybe about a year or two ago, you spoke with inmendham. I don't think you remembered that particular interview, but
how could he not remember me?
Point was that if we're going to face extinction, looking at evolution, how cruel it is. I mean, you see us as we're on our way out. We'll leave the rest of the planet to the animals. Hopefully, they'll survive.
Yes, an insane thought. I mean, just insane. Like I said, I mean, the fact that it's just more human arrogance. It's more displaced vision to think that we're the suffering ones. We're the victims on this planet. When every day, all of these brains equipped with just as much capacity to feel anyway as we have, are being tormented and harassed. And the tool is intended to give them the same advantages it gave us, which is to feel like an individual, to have a personal self-interest. That's why they feel too, is because a personal self-interest makes you a much more dangerous robot. And it's certainly conducive to you getting your genetic code to the future more than his or theirs. So it's the same tool, and somehow we think when that same tool is in some other organism's brain, our body, that all of a sudden it's less of a tool. This just a made-up fact, a fake news. As this guy would say, I sort of like the word. Let's see, evidence-free material. That's an evidence-free statement that somehow it's okay to leave them in shit. No, it's just humans who have too much dignity to be in the shit. No.
But do you think it's in the best interest of the rest of the animal world to continue the game as it's played currently or not?
He didn't answer this question, which is unfortunate, because he basically made a different argument. But in a way he answered it, because the way he answered it is basically saying something about the simple answer, which would have been, yeah, no, even if we were doing this fairly well and civilized, it still wouldn't be civilized, because it's not a civilized system. It's intended, we're made to be competitive, and we're made to be disposable. You're supposed to lay eggs and die. That's the game we're playing. Lay eggs and die. There's no other game. There's just lay eggs and die. That's the only game nature cares to play. And so unless you think laying eggs and dying is a great game to play, there's no game to play here. Except you're going to be a loser. You're going to lose. And the only question is how badly you're going to lose. How disgracefully and horrifically are you going to lose? How gross will be your losses? Will you actually be able to watch all your children die? Horribly. Protracted, horrible deaths. Will you be the lucky one who gets that fun ticket?
Or do you think
if we could shut down the 450 unchanged nuclear power plant?
Unchanged nuclear power plants. So there's 450 nuclear power plants that somehow mean something. Like somehow we haven't already found out that, yeah, you can pretty much melt those things down. And yes, it makes a little bit of mess around the area, but, 10 years later, the crocodiles will move in and they'll figure out how to capitalize, and, everything will adapt to the new circumstance, and it will be business as usual. Maybe your life will be a little shorter and a little grimmer, but same game, really.
That's around the world. If we could account for the profound impact of global dimming.
Global dimming. I don't know what that was. It must be some sort of other thing. Another comment on the nuclear power plants. You don't need to shut them down. You just need to make sure you don't have capitalists running them who don't sit there and put batteries, in the backup thingy. They got cheap batteries. You just have to do a little bit of rational management. I mean, theoretically, the idea of nuclear power plant doesn't mean it has to melt down. There's no rule that says it has to melt down. You just have to run the damn thing right.
Then yes, I think it'd make the world a lot more peaceful place.
So he somehow thinks if we somehow quit global warming and get rid of nuclear power plants, then somehow the world is fine. Everything's great. And especially for the animals, it just improved by, megatons. No, it didn't. It's no better. They're better off with us here. We're killing them pretty rapidly, diminishing their numbers, and lowering their attrition, lowering how many times they have to go through the life and death cycle. That can only be good for animals. Coming back here less often, big win.
Without humans. But because we're leaving in our wake the catastrophic, uncontrolled meltdown of nuclear power.
So again, this catastrophic meltdown of all the nuclear power plants, blah, 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 in some sort of way that's going to mean something. And it's really not going to happen in any way that would ever mean catastrophe to biological life. It will find a way, and it'll find it relatively quickly.
Facilities. And the likelihood as a result of generations of lethal mutations.
The whole frickin' game is made out of mutations, lethal ones or not, ones that end up being survivable. So of course there'll be lots of mutations, but that's exactly how we're the byproduct of. There wouldn't be people with blonde hair and blue eyes if they didn't do some kind of incesty thing. They didn't do some small population in an isolated area, goes off and does their own thing for a while, separate from the rest, so they don't have their genetics diluted. The whole American, the whole entire America continent, all the humans native to that continent, there's pretty hard evidence that it's from 6 females are the origin of all the American Indian tribes, all of them. From the bottom of South America to, the North Pole igloo livers, 6 females. Now, I'm going to say that's not a genetic mutation. That isn't a disaster waiting to make bad news. Of course it is, but it also makes good news because we already know error is what the whole system is made out of. The whole point is make lots of errors, and every now and then one of those errors will be an improvement. That's how the whole thing frickin' works. So to sit there and say, oh dear, we're going to introduce error code into the system loves error code. That's how every advance took place, was through inbreeding, isolation, error code. That's how all the improvements happen. The system loves more errors.
And perhaps as well, the stripping away the atmosphere, leaving Earth like Mars.
Okay, the stripping away of the atmosphere, I don't know how that one's going to happen. I mean, what's going to happen is the atmosphere is getting heavy. Okay, we're throwing the... Look, this argument is so simple. You know, I've made it before, but I'll just make it again. Because anybody who's a climate denier, it's just so... I don't know how you don't see how obvious it is. Now, you know, even if you don't know the facts, you can kind of understand that, yes, the Jurassic was warmer than it is now. You can figure out that, yeah, dinosaurs and shit like that weren't, you know, they didn't wear snowshoes. Yeah, it was warm. And there was lots of bugs and lots of other stuff. So you kind of know it was warm. You get it, it was warm. Okay, and warm means there's more moisture in the atmosphere. So that's a greenhouse gas, water, vapor. But the key is that how was the world different in the Jurassic? Well, the difference was there wasn't coal and oil underneath the dinosaurs. So there wasn't, and methane, there wasn't a whole bunch of dinosaur gas, you know, decomposed plants and animals trapped in the ground. So all the methane, all the carbon, all the coal, and all the oil weren't underneath the dinosaurs. So just think about it that way. So, you know, whatever, 500 million years ago, no black stuff in the underground and no methane. Okay, so, and then what's the difference now? A whole bunch of that stuff is trapped in the ground, sunk, carbon sink. So the number one greenhouse gas is water vapor. Number two greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide. And we've taken all that carbon, and it's kind of obvious it's carbon, right? It's all black. Coal, black, black, black. Oil, black, black, black. Full of carbon. That's why it's black. It's full of carbon. And we've taken half the oil and released it. But where do you think it went? It didn't go into the air and then go back into oil again, did it? No. It's in the atmosphere, and it's, you know, floating around different places, but it's available. It's back in the system. It's falling with the rain, and then it's back in the system again. And we've taken a little bit of the coal and done the same thing, and a little bit of the methane. But in that process, what we've done is we've created a little bit of warming. And a little bit of warming means there's a whole bunch of stuff that's just been frozen, like the methane. It hasn't been sunk. It's right on the surface, you know, the tundra and the Antarctic. It's right on the surface. It's just waiting to be let loose. And so once that gets dissolved, you know, it's going to make it a little bit warmer. And so the whole thing is obviously going to cycle. There's just no way to stop it. I mean, once you start letting it loose, more of it's going to get loose. And we're going back. It's just a fact. Now, going back isn't necessarily, I don't know why he thinks that means you're going to go extinct. That's the part that's like, why is that going to cause extinction? You don't think human beings will figure out how to survive it? They will. They're not going to live very well, but they'll survive it. And so why he thinks the whole atmosphere is going to fly off because of it. Venus's atmosphere is doing just fine. It didn't fly off. There's no reason to think the atmosphere is going anywhere. There's every reason just to think it's going to get 10 degrees warmer, like it was in the Jurassic. And it's going to be a very warm and wet place. Lots of water, lots of rain, because there's going to be more water in the system, in the air. Wrong. I hit this one.
Lifeless rock floating through space. All that tells me that maybe it isn't.
Yeah, lifeless rock floating through. That's a very nice. Oh, I hope so. But there's no reason to think that's how this thing escalates. I don't know where he gets the logic to say he knows it's going to be somehow so catastrophic that life will not survive. No, if life's going to be ended on this planet, we're going to have to do it on purpose. We're going to have to make a big error. I mean, we're going to have to make we're going to have to do it on purpose. It's not going to happen by accident. You don't get graceful exits by accident. You have to do them on purpose.
It's such a great planet in the absence of humans,
Yeah.
after all.
Such a great planet in the absence of humans, after all. Like I said, it's not great with organisms. So again, it's just to sit there and imagine that all of these organisms with all of these weapons to parasite each other, to consume each other's energy, to steal it. It's all a bunch of thieves. It's Thief Island. So you're watching an island where everything is designed to be a thief, to rape and pillage. It's Rape and Pillage Island. That's what Earth is. It's covered with every single organism has some kind of gimmick to make it take advantage and to win by stealing, effectively, somebody else's stuff. Everything lives that way. Nobody makes the stuff. They're thieves. They all steal the stuff.
Well, Paul, what do you think? I mean, again, if you
I think
think
it's
of all
looking
these
bad.
animals ravaging each other, so few survive birth. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that? Is it?
I mean, yes, it mass murders children on a ludicrous scale. And yet we have to have this conversation about whether that's a good idea or not. If a human being does it, it's somehow that's an atrocity. Even one person having their child murdered would be worth national grief, and we all should throw flowers in our toilet or something. We all should do, you know, so they go to the ocean. Blah, blah, blah. It's some sort of gesture of bonding or something. No, I mean, everybody's good. Let's give them billions of dollars. The stupid fucking crazy Arabs kill 3,000 Americans, and we have to spend whatever it was, $693 billion to heal their wounds. You know, they're the most catastrophically hurt humans in the history of humankind. No, they're just as averagely killed as somebody run over by a drunk driver. I mean, it's all so freaking illogical. The stinking illogic of how we're playing this game is reason enough to just say fuck the humans as, you know, anything valuable. And every other organism is dumber than we are. I mean, we can't even play the game smart, and we have the brain. They have no hope of playing a smart game. Oh.
Worth having these animals just tear each other apart.
Well, maybe we need a complete reset, as guys.
There's no resetting. How do you reset it? It's the way the game is built. There's no way to build the game. There's no game, okay, without the incentive to do something. And what is the to-do incentive going to be? How can you make something? Again, how are you going to even make something that can gain its energy without taking it from something else? The reset, when you hit the reset button, what are you going to put solar panels on all the organisms? How exactly is this going to work that they all aren't going to become thieves in 2 weeks? That they aren't going to say, he has more stuff than me, I want he. That girl's prettier than that girl, I want that one. How are you going to stop any of that? How is your reset button going to change it? It's going to do exactly what it did the first time. You hit the reset button, it's just going to build the same freaking crocodile. Crocodiles are excellent design. That's why it hasn't changed in 300 million years. It's because it doesn't need to change. It's perfect. It eats very little, and it eats very effectively, and it lays lots of eggs. Win. And it doesn't care how many of them die. How quickly. It'll even eat its own babies. What the hell if it's hungry?
The guy's kind of intimating. I mean, I thought he expressed it very well with the 450 power plants, nuclear power plants.
So again, this false notion that somehow nuclear power is the thing, the defining vice of the human race, was actually figuring out how to do something rather sophisticated to get energy rather than stealing it from period.
So us not around, we're cooked. I mean, I don't see any really.
So I mean, this idea that we're cooked because there's nuclear power plants. I mean, like I said, even if we turned them all off tomorrow, we killed all the humans, and the nuclear power plants are just sitting there and they're going to shut down. They all have mechanisms for automatically shutting down, and they'll do it in semi-stable ways. And so eventually all of them will probably in some way deteriorate over time and end up creating some radiation in a local area. And it'll leak into other places. But again, it'll be just something life on Earth figures out how to live with. It'll figure it out. The organisms will become more immune to it. If it's a problem, the organisms will adapt to it. We know that's what they do. And they're not going to have to adapt in 10 minutes. They'll have time.
Complex creature surviving this. Now, you know, as a species, we are outnumbered by insects, mites, mollusks, copepods, creatures like
we're outnumbered by the other mammals. So again, we're outnumbered by chickens. I think we're outnumbered by chickens.
That. I don't know if they're going to survive this. I mean,
it's just I don't know how you logically do this math. How do you logically say that these 400 nuclear power plants are going to desolate places that are thousands of miles away from a nuclear power plant? I mean, there's places on Earth where you have to go maybe 1,000 miles, or let's say at least 700 miles to get to a nuclear power plant. Those places are going to be fairly okay. And you would mean over time, they're going to be crowded in their location. And there's always going to be an incentive to go west, young man, even if it is more radioactive. And just like Chernobyl, there'll be organisms that adapt to the circumstance.
Really screwed the world, you know, no doubt about it. But on that score, let me see what else we could.
Well, if I could just add and maybe ask Guy this, Robert Sapolsky has done a lot of Stanford lectures on YouTube, and he studied baboons for 30 years in Africa. And something strange happened at the end of his experiment. There was a hotel in Africa that was near these baboons. The alpha baboons made life miserable for the female baboons, made it extremely miserable for the beta males. And
again, the misery of life has nothing to do with what works. So you could argue that this is something we already knew existed as a syndrome. Is, you know, the alpha males in elephant seals means that the 70% of the males never have sex. So 70% of the males born never have sex. And that's true for lots of other species. So there's, you know, the game is winner take all in lots of species. And if you're not one of the winners, you're just going to be shark food. You're going to be the ones sent on the front lines, you know, to go first, you know, and, you know, very few generals die in war.
There was tubercular meat in a garbage dump near these alphas, and of course the alphas were ones going foraging for meat. They ate the tubercular meat, they died, and then all of a sudden the baboon colony was very peaceful, and things went really, really well. Their blood pressure went down because they used to measure their blood pressure.
Right, and then they got fat and lazy, and lots of other negative things would happen because they had no leadership, and so without leadership, they couldn't fend off the other baboon tribe that genocidally slaughters all of them. So, I mean, that's the downside. It's like with all of those, you have to recognize that all of those groups are like little civilizations. And so it's like with gorillas and chimpanzees and all the rest of them, they go on genocidal raids and essentially kill each other, just like the American Indians. Everybody thinks they lived and, oh, they were so peaceful and everything was so nice. No, they killed each other constantly. They would go on raids and, you know, at night and slaughter each other because they had to, because there's no way to stop the overpopulation problem. Success means I have to take over new territory. It means my kids can't keep living in my house. There's too many of them. And so you have to go take territory. And so it's always, again, they're thieves. It's a game of thieves. It's not a Game of Thrones. Game of Thieves.
do you think that part of the problem is the, I mean, I know we're getting really specific here, but in the animal world, do you think the problem is the alphas, or is that too far of a stretch?
Absolutely, there's no stretch at all. And
Yeah, it is a stretch. It's not the problem because again, it's just the point is there's always management required. There's always somebody who has to drive the bus. And the truth is that on balance, each bus driver has different skills. So you could say, yes, the alphas are very good at not hitting cars and something, but the betas can't reach the brake pedal. So, you know, they're doomed to kill you too. So there's always going to be a balance. There's not going to be some perfect driver. Because where the bus is pointed at is you're either going to be prey or you're going to be predator. You're going to be winner or loser, and that's just the point. And the point is to be a winner, you're not going to be Mr. Nice Guy. Nice guys finish last. That might be the point. You could say, oh, that's one of the truths here, is that trying to think you can play this brutal game in a civilized manner isn't practical. Because that's not how it works. That's not how win is defined.
And you look at human animals, and we've taken it to the extreme with the patriarchal set of living arrangements characterizing every civilization. That patriarchy, that top down, that alpha males, almost always males, by the way.
Yes, and again, I'm not defending male brutality, male aggression, all of these negative things, but the truth is your tribe would have been annihilated if you didn't have those alphas. Okay, if you didn't have those alpha aggressive nasty motherfuckers, you would have been wiped out by the other alphas. That's just the way it would have worked. It's a fighter's game. You can't sit there and play, I'm going to send Goldilocks in to take on Mike Tyson, because it ain't going to work. She's going to lose.
Has taken us to the abyss. It's that sort of behavior that has absolutely done it. You know, I want to bring up something
more nonsense. It's the idea that you think you can control this system. The idea that they think we're going to win, even though you got every year you just pile on more evidence of failure, more evidence of how you can't control the system, more evidence is that the mechanism of our error code and our lack of intelligence and our pitiful management skills and the difficulty of trying to play this game, the evidence just piles up that it can't be done. You're never going to have a winning year. It's never going to happen. There's never going to be a winning year. You're never going to do it. And it's this whole freaking fairy tale religious singularity seeking bullshit crap that people think there's some way to win. There's no way to win the game because the game requires you to be an asshole. The game is asshole. You're playing asshole. The winner has to be an asshole by definition of the game. You cannot win the game unless asshole is what you did.
A counter example, if you will. This is from Whitetail.
Gary hates the rich, some douchebag writes. You know, I don't hate the rich. I recognize them as waste, the insane fucking waste, the huge waste of human labor, the waste of resources. You think there's something to admire about people who waste preposterous amounts of resources that could not only improve other people's lives, but of course save them and all that kind of shit from horror and terrible experiences. And they wasted on fucking velvet hats and shit. Fuck you, cunt. It's not about hating the rich. You fucking troll. You guys, his name is the Trolls for Thee. Fuck you. Asshole name. I mean, he's basically just saying, I'm a gaping asshole. I mean, fuck. Put troll in your screen name. Just show how fucking stupid you are. Just like saying, I drink lead paint. And then, you know, stick my nose in my own ass.
deer, and this was written up in the Journal of Wildlife Management many years ago. I can't remember the author or the paper or the year of the publication.
Okay, never mind. You know, let's jump ahead a little bit. We'll just jump randomly, maybe. I wanted to get to this 103. Apparently, he says something. So earlier in this, he did bring up, like he has changed over the last couple of years, gotten mellower. Like, you know, I guess he has, you know, had to get a divorce or something. Didn't say that exactly, but it sort of sounded like interpersonal problems or whatever. So I guess he's got a new younger chick girlfriend or something, and everything's fine. But anyway, sorry, I'm just grossly paraphrasing the, you know, my impression. Okay, doesn't have necessarily have anything to do with the truth. But you know, I'm just pissed off because he did make this reference to Schopenhauer. So they're talking about how Schopenhauer is readable. So the guy in the middle said, "Oh yeah, Schopenhauer is readable," and blah blah blah. It's just a bunch of words. I mean, he has the readable words, but he's never saying anything very directly, frankly. And this whole idea of talking about people who think there was something admirable in Buddhism, when so obviously the philosophy is just basically saying life is insanely stupid. Let's do it some more. I mean, it just play your role. It's basically just saying give up. It's saying, you know, it's bad. Like you could be in a war and you could say, gee, I don't see anything intelligent in this at all. Why are we doing this stupid thing? Why don't we all just not do it? And the Buddhist philosophy is just basically, no, you can't just not do it because then they have to have the war tomorrow. So you won't fix the problem. The war still have to happen tomorrow. So you better do the war today, you motherfucker, because if you don't do the war today, they're still going to have it tomorrow. I mean, and that's their reason for living. The stupid reason. You know, that's not a good reason. You know, and they're basically saying, just do your, yes, you've been designed to be a dumbass, be a dumbass. I mean, it's a stupid philosophy. Buddhism is shit. Ugh, I hate Buddhists. All right, anyway, jump ahead.
See this tribal madness played out at a large scale. And I think there's a direct tie to that set of behaviors associated with tribalism with a relatively...
So as I understand, it's the nature of the beast. I mean, every single beast and every single human being, it's almost impossible not to feel your tribal roots. It's very difficult not to be somewhat racist, somewhat culturalist, somewhat nationalistic, somewhat languagistic. I mean, I have no interest in hearing other languages. I really don't want to hear other accents. I just saw a TED Talks with a freaking woman wearing one of those stupid hobjobs on her fucking head. A physicist. And you're just saying, I mean, I shouldn't say it. I mean, I just want somebody to slap that bitch. What the fuck, bitch? Why are you talking science? Why are you talking why and the mysteries of the universe? Let's understand. When your fucking God doesn't want you to understand, you dumb bitch. If he wanted you to understand, he would have wrote it in a goddamn book. He would have said the special galaxy 500 light years away is caused by. He would have explained it all to you if he wanted you to know any of that shit, dumb bitch. He wanted you barefoot and fucking pregnant, you dumbass. He didn't want you educated and doing smart shit. He would have said educate the women if that's what he fucking wanted, was educated women. Why the fuck are you wearing that symbol of fucking male oppression of females? Why are you wearing your slave garb as a fucking physicist? I mean, you can't get stupider than this. How fucking idiotic. How big an idiocracy are we going to be? Like, how badly is the human race going to humiliate itself before, you know, it goes to AK-47 war, you know, which will really be Bozo the Clown funny. But I mean, before we get to that madness, how exactly stupid are we going to demonstrate ourselves to be, where intellectuals will sit there and tolerate fucking scientists wearing fucking head jobs on their fucking head? Symbols of slavery. Why didn't you just show up as a black man with your chains on? I mean, I love my chains. Don't tell me I can't keep my chains. Oh, God, I fucking can't stand this shit. People are just so goddamn stupid. I'd put her in jail for it. Or tell her, you know, you either go back and live in Islam, Get the fuck out of a civilized country, you loop-de-doo, or go to jail.
Few organisms, relatively few numbers of people, where everybody pretty much knew everybody, and that's
and fucking slept with their their best friend's wife, and figured out how to, like, as farmers, well, my crop isn't doing very well, and his crop's doing very well. Maybe I should try to salt the ground. Little sneaky bullshit. So bullshit. You don't fix it by saying everything's okay, we're a tribe. That doesn't fix it.
we're continuing those behaviors, and they're no longer working, obviously.
But of course, animals live only at the sufferance of man.
Well, more horse shit. What does that even mean? Well, how does that even equate? I don't even remember him saying that, but that's just such a silly remark. You only live at their sufferance. You've only been here a really short amount of time. The fucking little beasties, are going to be eating your corpses.
By the sufferance of man. I mean, they wouldn't be here if Noah didn't stick them on his ark.
Oh, he's making a joke. Oh, ha 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 ha. Thanks for the joke. I hate jokes. God, jokes.
The most successful, the premier nation in the history of humanity. A country absolutely founded and continuing on the basis of genocide.
All right. So yes, of course, we weren't founded on genocide. We were just founded on a principle, like every other person, like every other country in the world kicked the locals the fuck out. All right. Every single one. I mean, you want to point to the most recent example of Israel, where, yes, they just kicked the people who've lived there for 500 years. And they just basically said, get out, because if you stay here, you're going to be a non-citizen in a new country. You're going to be a hostile. So either take the $300 and be happy, or we're going to just, in some way or other, make life hell for you anyway. So get the hell out. And so where did that not happen on planet Earth? Where doesn't it happen in every single civilization that ever achieved greatness? It basically did that, whether it was through, Roman conquest or some other conquest. I mean, that's just the name of the game. That's the game, winner take all. So to sit there and harp on it, I'm not, it's nasty and it's bad. And it's certainly one of the worst examples of annihilation of the previous inhabitants. But you sort of have to argue the fact that they so completely wiped out the Egyptian culture, that people couldn't even read hieroglyphics anymore, is kind of a pretty stark example of annihilation.
And it goes back a long ways. Are we better? Are we worse? I think that there is.
It doesn't matter. See, if we didn't come here and wipe out the North American Indians, the South American Indians already had plans. They were already moving on up. Okay, and they were ready. They were going to take the game anyway. So the game was going to be owned by some empire was going to own it. It's just the way the game on Earth was. The way humans were evolving. That's what they were turning into, is giant block nations. China, Mongolia. I mean, they were just turning into giant hunks of territory owned by a warlord. That's what capitalism does when set free. That's the free market when it's set free. The Mullinex vision of human existence, that's what it looks like. And all you do is just keep erasing borders based on who has new technology and who can kick somebody else's ass.
And Socrates pointed this out, by the way, quite a few years ago, that there's about 10% of any population capable of practicing rational thought.
Well, I just think it's just nonsense talk. So, it turns out that it's very popular to do things the shortcut way. So doing things the hard way or the responsible way or the right way isn't very popular, because most people are selfish cunts, and only a small percentage of people realize that being a selfish cunt is stupid. So that's the real problem, that only a certain amount of people get to really figure out what that do unto others thing really means, and they become principled about it. And the rest are basically just looking for their chance to, you know, shag their neighbor's wife.
And using reason in their daily lives. And then there's another book that came out, must have been 80s or 90s, called The Splendid Feast of Reason by S. Jonathan Singer.
Yeah.
And he concludes...
well, Singer's also a douchebag. Fluffiest. Well, he's gotten a little bit. He has sort of realized that, yes, maybe the way to go is graceful exiting.
The same thing. I don't think he'd read any Socrates, but he concluded, based on more contemporary evidence, that within any large number of human beings, there's only about 10%.
Well, again, this number is just stupid. I mean, obviously, every single person can be made to have character and be a decent human being. Obviously, the problem is we allow assholes to raise children. We allow any idiot to get pregnant and fart out babies and then pretend to responsibly mature them into human beings. And clearly, that's not what most parents are doing. They're not making human beings. They're not making something that has to feel reward and punishment, know what it is to be not an asshole and have some obligation not to be an asshole. They have no concept of it. And so, yes, it never occurs to them that they're in a game a little deeper than whatever their little family game is.
Who are capable of, and therefore do, exercise reason as the basis for their day-to-day actions and their day-to-day lives. I don't know.
Okay, yes, I am thinking of Peter Singer. So, yes, I'm being unfair to the other Singer guy. He ought to change his name.
I don't know where that comes from. I don't know why 90% of the people are genetically or characteristically indisposed towards unreasonable.
Well, just think about it, because it's profitable. It's easy not to have to be responsible. It's easy not to learn how I have to go to school to learn how to drive the bus right. I don't want to do all that. I just want the quick answer. What do I do? Gas, pedal, brake, steering wheel. Okay, that's all I want to know. Shut up. That's how they want their world. They want it simple, easy. They don't want to be taxed. They don't want to have to pay for it. They don't want to do any work. We're fundamentally lazy, selfish cunts. So yes, most people never realize that's stupid. Don't be that. That's called asshole. Don't be an asshole. So only 10% of the people figure out, don't be an asshole.
Reasonable behavior, not rooted in reason, not rooted in rationalism.
Well, I'd argue that of those 10% that you say are rooted in reason and rationalism, of those 10%, only 1% of that 10% is doing anything reasonable or rational. They're just less of an asshole than the mega assholes. They're still gaping assholes. So 10% are just gaping assholes instead of mega assholes, but you still, and only 1% are just, well, a little bit assholey, or, you know, just a puckered asshole.
But it seems like we've been that way for a long time.
It's the nature of the mechanism. The game is make a mess. The game isn't fix a mess. The game is make a mess.
I don't think that we're getting any, and I would argue.
All right, wait, you're boring me now, so I'm going to jump ahead to the another inmendham moment, I believe.
Because you told them not to. You can't impose morality in that way because you're fighting evolution, and there is no fighting evolution.
All right, so this was really stupid. Okay, so this is, again, this guy's smart enough to know that there's absolutely no reason since, like, I don't know, 1850 even, but let's just say since 1900, for anybody to confuse sex with having babies. I mean, they can clearly understand how babies are made, and that I'm pulling out or I'm doing something. I'm going to make some effort not to make a baby. So, I mean, there was all kinds of ways, and women were certainly figuring out, oh yeah, I got to eat some whatever, red tree bark or whatever, and drink tea, and, I'll fart out the fucking creature, the parasite.
Each individual.
But you cannot fight evolution. You cannot fight evolution by natural selection. So you cannot tell somebody, you can't tell a teenager to not have sex.
So again, just so stupid. So Head in the Box brings up having babies. This idiot, sorry, but that's just an idiotic response. Brings up you can't tell a teenager you can't have sex. It has absolutely nothing. I was never afraid that I was going to have a baby when I jerked off. Never even occurred to me that was a threat. Okay, so I didn't have any inhibitions at all. No problem. So this is just bullshit to say you can't somehow have satisfactory sex life without making babies. Of course you can. And of course, anybody alive now should have the clear understanding that it takes very little effort to separate sex from reproduction.
And expect that to work just because you told them not to. You can't impose morality in that way because you're fighting evolution.
Well, of course, you're not fighting evolution. And even if you were, you can impose morality, frankly. I mean, it's perfectly rational to impose morality. There's some people who like to have sex with kids. We say, no, you can't do that, okay? It just doesn't work. It's not good for the kid, okay? He's got to have the right to decide what his sexuality is going to be, and you shouldn't be doing it by inserting your penis into his life. So you can make a perfectly rational argument for imposing morality. And I would argue that I can make a perfectly rational argument that I should have the right to impose morality on people who torture animals for their food, or, especially when they do it in this stupid kosher way where they just gratuitously lengthen the death process as tribute to a stupid god. I mean, that I can impose the morality to say that's fucking evil. You never lengthen the amount of torture. So every time you're going to lengthen torture, you're going to have a damn good excuse for that. And tribute to your god isn't nearly good enough. And I'm going to impose fucking morality on you. So fuck you in this. I can't impose morality. Sure, I fucking can. I have a responsibility to do it. If something's fucking overtly raping, I have a responsibility to do it.
There's no fighting evolution and winning. So
that's just horse shit. Again, we're not fighting evolution. It's just so funny because the evolution has absolutely nothing to do. The only way the evolution thing worked was when we were stupid. So before we invented fire, so to speak, you could make the argument that evolution was controlling us. But once we figured out these things, then evolution has no control because its whole weapon was based on fooling dumb animals. It fooled us into having babies by making sex fun. We're smart enough to know that, yeah, well, that's the catch. You can stick the key in and you don't have to, whatever, turn the lock. You know what I'm saying? We have figured out how to fool that mechanism very easily. So there's absolutely no reason for us to be controlled by the evolution anymore. The evolution lost its control because it made its system based on our stupidity. It was fooling dumb animals. We're not dumb animals anymore. It's like saying that if nature had made some kind of trap, some kind of snap trap, yeah, the dumb animals would step in it, but we'd be smart enough to see it and go, that's a snap trap. Don't step in it. We can figure it out. There's absolutely no reason to say the snap trap wins. There's every reason to say we're smart. We figure out, just throw a rock in it. And it's done. It's over with. It's finished as a trap.
Well, it's such a strong drive. I mean, obviously, in those days long ago, you weren't having sex to have children. You were having sex because it felt good.
Right, because you're dumb and you don't know any better. So yes, you're being tricked by just giving you candy, and you don't realize, oh, the candy has a catch tied to it. But once you know there's a catch, once you know there's a string attached, you can just figure out how to cut the fucking string.
Well, it's not the same today, but at least we have the intelligence. But when you promote it in terms of having children, I think that's the problem. There's nothing wrong with somebody.
Yeah, well, again, this has nothing to do with sex. Having children has nothing to do with sex. It really doesn't. It has nothing to do with sex. It's an overt will to be reckless and stupid.
Feeling good. no better feeling than an orgasm, as far as I know. I mean, I'm kind of getting crude, but I'm not really getting crude, but it's just the way it is.
Yeah, and guess what? The irony is there's no worse feeling than thinking about having kids while that's happening. Being worried that you're making somebody pregnant. There's no worse feeling. So I mean, I'm just saying that it's just so ironic that the only way you really have fun having sex is having the notion in your head that somehow you're not going to have a kid. The idea of having unprotected sex or sex with somebody where you have no reason to believe you haven't done anything to prevent pregnancy, having that kind of worried sex, frankly, ain't that much fun, I would imagine.
Yes, absolutely agree. And yet we know how to prevent making copies of ourselves now. But remember, you're trying to fight evolution by natural selection, and evolution by natural selection screams at us to make copies of ourselves.
It really doesn't do any of that. They never screamed at me ever. In my whole life, it didn't scream at me. Gary, make babies, have little babies, be responsible for them, take care of them, feed them, change their diapers, do all. No, nothing ever screamed to me to do any of that shit. So that's just a pile of crap. The only thing screaming at me was the raging, the raging. And that's it. Okay, there was no connection between the raging and babies. Nothing. No connection. None. I never imagined any kind of excited way child making. So it's just horseshit to say nature owns us on this subject. It doesn't even come close to owning us.
So that's the whole point of our existence and all of our predecessors from an evolutionary perspective, from a cosmic perspective. The point of this whole exercise.
Oh, Trump's a good man. Hilarious. Somebody actually is insane enough to type that. Loyal 92. That's your IQ, right? Oh, God damn. I mean, just amazing. I mean, Trump couldn't be a more perfect definition of a selfish, fucking ignorant, stupid dupe. And the stupid dupe sits there and calls him a good man. I mean, there's nothing, he hasn't had a good thought in his entire life. He hasn't given 10 cents to anyone ever without thinking, how can I get 20 cents back? And I swear to you, honestly, I would stake my internal organs on that being the truth. That is, you could gut me in the square if somebody can actually prove Trump ever had a generous thought in his whole fucking life. He is a sociopath. He has never, ever, 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 ever considered anyone else's comfort or improvement but his own. Ever. You stupid cunt.
Of life is to make more of us.
I don't want another copy of Donald Trump.
Another joke. Oh, God. Jokesters.
I don't want another copy of a whole bunch of people. But
well, I certainly don't even want a copy of myself. I mean, it just starts right there.
Look who the winners are.
Right.
Yes, there's no winners. That's the thing to fucking point out. I wouldn't live any of their lives. Every life on Earth looks like a big fucking disaster to me. I can't. The people who are supposed to have won look like huge fucking losers. I mean, like even people who you think, you know, they had like everything at their peak, like a Richard Burton, for example, or something. And then he becomes owned by this stupid Elizabeth Taylor pussy. And then he's, you know, wastes $4 million on a pink diamond ring. And, you know, it's just turned into a complete loser. I mean, it happens to every one of them. Every story ends with, holy shit, could they, you know, they're either destroyed physically and turned into like a 58-pound Muppet, or they're fucking found dead with a shower curtain wrapped around their neck, you know, wanking off to fucking Teletubby porn. I mean, it all ends bad. Or the life itself is putridly dull and insipidly fucking mechanical. These people who live their whole life is just I wash the dishes and then I set the table and then I serve the dinner and then I wash the dishes and So yeah, there's no winners on this planet. There's nobody's life I would have lived. I mean, all their lives look like shit.
And you know, you don't have to go too many steps further to notice that the winners in contemporary culture are the CEOs. They're the ones who make the big money. That includes oil company CEOs, by the way. And you'd be hard pressed to find any CEO of any quote successful company that hasn't made their way up the corporate ladder by with untoward behavior.
Well, whatever that means. Clearly by not being anybody, by knowing somebody. Let's understand that everybody knows somebody. It's all kind of incest among the rich people. They're all networked, and so it's all family money. Like, you do my family a favor, and my family will do your family a favor, and that's all it is among the rich. None of these people started off as an oil driller and then became CEO of Exxon or something. That doesn't happen.
To put it mildly.
Okay, I guess we can't get away from the climate change questions. Let's throw this one in. Pupil says, after Blue Ocean, I hear we have weeks to 10 years before society falls. Which is it, and the scientific difference?
Weeks to 10 years. I mean, again, I don't know where these people are getting this idea that something's taken over. Like even the bird flu and shit, all that's everybody's supposed to be dying, dropping dead. Well, that never happened. And the West Nile virus, yeah, it's around, but it isn't killing everybody. The blight from Interstellar, the blight. I have some blight here, killed my tomatoes this year. But yeah, I don't think the whole industrial complex is falling apart soon.
Thanks for doing this. Oh my, you must feel this all the time, Guy. I mean, yeah. Well, you want to take that on?
Yes. One, we don't know for sure because it hasn't happened in the history of humanity. But I suspect it's weeks or months. I was asked this question earlier today by a reporter from Bloomberg News. Yes, Bloomberg News is actually going to put out a story in which they quote me, which is shocking all by itself.
Oh, now you're really famous.
And so I think that what happens if we have a blue ocean event early enough in the melt season, say in July, then I think we have sufficient warming due to several factors, the acceleration of several self-reinforcing feedback loops, that by the following autumn, we could have a complete meltdown of civilization. What I think is more likely,
I just don't know what the hell they're talking about, but it's never going to happen that rapidly because there are checks and balances in the system. I mean, one piece goes too warm, then some other piece goes too cold. I mean, it is all this thermodynamic shit going on, so it takes a little bit of time for the tornado to start really spinning. So it just doesn't spin instantly. It takes some time to start whirling really good. So the tornado ain't going to show up in one day.
Is that we have a blue ocean event, an ice-free Arctic, late in the melt season. And that's consistent with every year so far when we've had the annual minima near the third week in September. So if the blue ocean event waits around, say next year, let's just use next year as an example. If the blue ocean event occurs in early or mid-September,
I don't know what that is. So that must mean some Gulf Stream thing goes up too high, and so there's no snow in Antarctica or something. I don't know. I don't personally know what that is. I'm just saying it. You don't need to go into these tiny specifics of all these different little ecosystems to understand the basic trend. And understanding the trend, I think, just tells you enough that it took hundreds of million years to sink all the carbon. We're releasing it very quickly, but we really can't even release it quickly enough to cause the perfect storm that's going to do enough damage to make life, like I said, cease. And if you make it less civilized means the dumb people are even freer to have more kids, and they will have them, just like all the poor nations demonstrate. They just keep having kids. They live in garbage and filth, and they keep having more of them.
Then it's just for a few days or maybe for a couple of weeks. I doubt it has significant impact on that year's grain harvest, on that year's grain production, harvest, and storage. So now we're talking about increased temperature rise that impacts next spring and summer. So now we're into 2019 before the grain crop is diminished greatly as a result of abrupt climate change from the Blue Ocean event. So it's
so this idea that, like I said, the grain is all over the world now. You have all these different kinds of grains. I don't even know how much rice they might even have in storage. You might have enough rice in storage in some places to, frankly, feed the human race for a year. I don't know, but it seems quite possible. That's true.
all about timing from my perspective. I thought early this year that we were headed, the projections early this year indicated we were headed for an ice-free Arctic by sometime in July. And I thought, well, that's early enough that surely civilization would collapse as a result of the devastated grain harvest in this year, 2018. We made it through. It seems like we made it through this year without an ice-free Arctic. And so maybe next year, if we get an ice-free Arctic late enough in the melt season, we're talking about 2020 before the House of Cards comes down.
I just don't know how you have this house of cards that can come down in this way when you have stuff all over the world in different geographic climates, and not all of those climates aren't going to fail, and some of them are going to be improved by the circumstance. That is, places where you couldn't grow anything, you're going to be able to grow some stuff. So again, food is really important. So let's not fool around that if something happens to kill half the crops on Earth, it's going to be devastating. But it's not. It's going to be obvious. We know who it's going to be devastating for. Okay, it's not going to be devastating for the people who can afford to steal it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again, this is a great change from the previous models. What we're talking about, the previous models, really before your work came into play, where they were talking 2030, 2050, 2070, end century, all that.
And some people still do. And I would argue that even if it's 2030, even if it's 2023, even if it's 2025, even if it's 2020, think about it from a cosmological.
Well, it makes a big difference to all the people who are maniacally thinking, hey, maybe I ought to buy myself a silo of wheat. Maybe I ought to buy wheat futures. Yeah, because, the crops go way down, the wheat price goes way up, I can make a killing.
Logical perspective, or even the history of our species perspective, that's all a blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So all of that falls well into the category of abrupt climate change. Whether it's next year or 2030, obviously that makes a huge difference for us as individuals, and for our shortened lives, and the lives of our children and the people.
Well, the Elvis guy, who's very nice, Evilius Antonidalus, whatever. I've heard that when you're starving, see, I don't like this I've heard stuff. It's not a very good reference. Mr. I Heard told me it becomes too difficult to digest cooked foods like grains. I just think that's crazy. I mean, it's the easiest thing in the world is to digest bread. So, I just don't think bread is ever going to be a toxic food. So I don't buy that argument for a minute. And rice, rice is, easy calories. So I don't, that doesn't make any sense to me. Whoever you heard that from, I don't think he heard it right. Yeah.
Well, we know. Obviously, that's a big deal. But from the broader perspective of us as a species, or us as a society, or us as a nation state, we're really splitting hairs here.
Right. And that's my point. This gets me so, frankly, so goddamn upset.
Yes, we're splitting hairs to have a conversation about catastrophe killing us. Because in a sense, we're going to get killed anyway. And frankly, if you have to be killed by something, it's probably better to get killed by the tsunami than cancer. I mean, if you really know, if you could know ahead of time how you're going to die, okay, and you sit there and pull out, brain cancer, 3 years of brain cancer. And then you have the choice to say, can I pick again? And you have to pick out of the dystopia, end of the world pile, like all the ways the human race could be annihilated. You might say, oh, yeah, I got much better odds there. Because I might die in a week. Okay, it won't take 3 years. I'll die in a week. And yeah, maybe it'll be nasty, but it's a week. Okay, it's a lot better than 3 years. So let's not pretend that the idea of this annihilation event is in any way worse than the annihilation we all face anyway. We're all going to get run over. And all you're really saying is I want to get run over by a blue steamroller, not a yellow one. It's a steamroller. It's going to run you over. And really all we're really arguing about is time then, right? We're just saying I needed more time. I had so many more things to do. I haven't, twiddled my anus enough times, and I have a few other things to get accomplished, and blah, 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 blah. And yes, that's an impulse to say we want more time, but let's recognize that's what this is really about. This isn't about the annihilation event. This isn't about how you get annihilator. This is just about I want more time. I want to live longer. That's it. There's no other part of this equation at all. This has nothing to do with the survival of the human race. This has to do with individuals thinking, I don't want to be dead soon.
Because, again, we're talking about scars. You're measuring scars. And so, if all of a sudden Peter Wadham says, it's going to be 3 years, and now Paul Beckwith is starting to jump in with some predictions, getting very, very close to what you said. If you're off by a year, all of a sudden these people are saying, look, it's so ridiculous. It doesn't even matter.
Right.
Well, I just think it doesn't matter in the sense of talking about it as if you think it's all going to happen one way. And there aren't like so many permutations. And you have the permutation that could take 300 years for the human race to fail, or it could take 30 days for the human race to fail. I mean, to be exterminated. I don't think there's, I really don't think there's any 30-day thing that you could kill all the people in 30 days. I don't think there's any kind of environmental catastrophe that could do that, except one that we did on purpose. Again, if we fire every nuke on Earth, maybe we can get the job done. But it would take every single one of them.
Bothers me.
And I've been quoting the paper in the Annual Review of Earth and Planetary Sciences for a long time, indicating 2016 plus or minus 3 years. And that's a projection from a paper published in 2012. And people point out, well, of course it's 2012. That's the year that we had a record low ice extent in the Arctic Ocean. No, actually, the paper was written and based on the period up through 2007, through the 2007 melt season. So that paper in the referee journal literature indicates 2016 plus or minus 3 years. And so I think it's reasonable to expect an ice-free Arctic next year. That would fall at the very end of the 7-year period that was the plus or minus 3 years. And maybe it's a year after that. The 2007 was a pretty low year too. So the last year that the authors, Weslowski et al. Used in that paper was 2007, which was a relatively low extent year. So using that final year as a projection point obviously pointed to 2016, which is a little early because we got through 2016 and 2017 and 2018 with ice in the Arctic.
So anyway, I guess there must be a theory out there that somehow correlates to ice in the Arctic and the fact that everything falls to pieces. I don't really understand what that correlation would be, because until you release all the methane, it's really not that big a difference.
By the way, another thing I want, if you don't mind, gentlemen, to get off my chest, this is just my opinion. Guy, in our first interview with you, I discussed Russia with you and how the Russian government, Putin specifically, I mean, they put the flag the North Pole below the ice. They have been opening the sea routes. They've endorsed it, and you've actually chimed in on that and essentially agreed that that's going on. That Russia, because that's a big factor. There's the East Siberian ice shelf. But you're the only one. You're the only one that is.
Somebody comments about the Kavanaugh allegation. I don't have too much to say. I mean, obviously, you have to investigate these people. I think this guy is a despicable creature. Shouldn't be on the Supreme Court. But clearly, with the point I'll keep pointing out is that the Republicans can't complain about any stalling or sabotage techniques because Obama was entitled to the pick that Trump stole. And so Trump shouldn't even have this pick. We should wait till the next president. If that's going to be the rule that presidents can only pick 2 people, then okay, then Trump doesn't get to replace whatever her name is when she finally croaks. So let's apply the same rules. If we're going to make these idiotic rules that fucking presidents aren't entitled to their picks, the whole thing is bullshit. But I mean, he's a lousy human being. He's just a corporate cunt. Fucking religious kook. What are we needing of those around for? Fake religious kook. Another fake. I mean, they say fake news. Yeah, fake religion. What's more disgusting? Pretending you're religious when you're not. I mean, that's pretty gross. Yeah, well, I don't really follow every move Trump makes, but obviously Trump is an idiot. So yes, he'll do things with these sanctions and this bullshit, and all that will not go anywhere. He's not a great negotiator. We've already found that out. He can't negotiate his way, and he can't negotiate unless he has a system where somebody else is winning. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yes, he negotiated building golf courses with dirty Russian laundered money. I mean, he had negotiated with banks by coming up with loan schemes, that were illegal. That's the only way he could borrow money is through some illegal scheme because he never paid back his loans. I mean, he's always such a crook. Anyway, I want to talk about fucking Trump. Let's see. Do you find it? I do find it hilarious, Gary. Everyone has their reason for denying Kavanaugh, but the real reason that they should give us is that you don't even give us a hearing. You don't hear this right now. I don't know what that means, but whatever. I heard Professor Anton can digest a book. Wow. Funny. Comments are basically stupid. Okay, good. All right. Back to this nonsense. And then I have to go fairly soon.
Is willing to talk about the politics of climate change. And I'm just wondering, why do people lay off of that? You know what I mean?
Well, there's no politics to climate change in the sense that it's, number one, it's too late. We've already done it. The climate's going to change, and the amount of difference it's going to make. It's almost like once you crack the door open, all the prisoners escape. It doesn't matter if you open it halfway or 3/4 of the way. They're going to push it all the way open anyway. So in a sense, we've already opened the door so much that it's going to happen. And once it gets going, like I said, once the methane gets loose, then the water vapor goes way up, and then the CO2 goes up, and you're just, I mean, I suppose there's a difference in the next 10 years if we can prevent putting a little more carbon back into the atmosphere, but I just don't know if it can really make enough of a difference to stop some of the changes that'll take place. Now, the fact is, the oil and the carbon don't go anywhere unless we release those. So at least those sinks are permanent sinks unless we let that shit loose. The coal isn't just going to start evaporating back into the atmosphere. We have to burn it back in. So that's not going back until that's going to be the last thing to go back. That's going to be the Venus syndrome. You're going to have to be 300 degrees on the surface of the earth for the oil and the coal to start going back in. So that's the only thing on our side, is there is some limit. So maybe we'll only go half Jurassic. Maybe we can only go halfway back to the Jurassic.
Because there's a big problem over there. That's where most of the, a lot of the methane is. And they seem to think that this is going to be a good thing. It's not.
Well, it's going to be a good thing for a lot of people inland in the sense that they're in crappy climates because, yeah, it's going to become 5 degrees centigrade warmer, and that's huge. And it means they can grow stuff and, sunbathe and do all kinds of things they couldn't do. Well, I guess it's not going to change the sun. So that's a stupid remark. Northern climate's still going to be north, but it's going to be much warmer. So stuff that doesn't grow will grow. But yeah, the real catastrophe, I don't think is going to be that it's going to kill crops because I just don't. Life likes warm, so it's going to like warm and wet. Warm and wet is good for crops. They like that shit. So crops is going to do okay. Crops in some places might not do so good. Places in other places going to do really well. There'll be greener deserts and stuff. I mean, it's going to be spread around. But anyway, good place here, bad place there. The real problem is there's so many human beings live on the coast. That's the real problem. So when the sea level rises, all those people are going to have to leave where they're living and move inland and try to live in somebody else's house. And that's when the fighting is going to start and where people are going to be like, you get the fuck out of here. You can't live in my house. And so that's when things get really ugly, is when all the New Yorkers and all the California Baja volleyball players start moving into the valley, and you have these huge wars between the, volleyball players and the valley girls.
Right. And, I really don't have any.
Well, actually, California is not in that big of trouble just because it's fucking mountains, on the coast. So even when the sea level rises, it ain't going to matter in California. Yeah, you'll lose Baja, but I mean, you won't lose like most of California. You'll just say, I don't even notice because it's all cliffs anyway.
Answer for you. Why are other people unwilling?
But like Florida and all that, the whole Gulf of Mexico, all those people living on those coasts, that's all gone. So all those people are going to start moving inland and nobody's going to want to put them up for a few years.
To tackle the social dynamics that result from and that contribute to climate change. I don't know why I seem to be singular in my perspective.
The only one. You're the only. I mean, Peter Wadham said that Russia makes it difficult for them to do their studies, and that's it. And then he stopped. I mean, it's fine. I like Peter Wadham. He's a nice guy. But as far as talking punk, nobody will say anything. I mean, Paul Beckett's great videos. Never a word about what's going on with the Russians. I mean, they're a big part because we are too, but nothing.
Well, and it could be that for climate scientists, for professors who are still getting paid, they are influenced by the social structure of the organization of which they are a part.
Yeah, it's boring. Okay, so this is politics stuff, blah, blah, blah. Not saying this stuff isn't worth arguing among people, but I just don't see that there's any policy or politics to this subject. I mean, all of the solutions we have are stupid. Solar energy is stupid. It's too inefficient. Stopping nuclear power would be retarded, and especially in this circumstance, because in terms of greenhouse emissions, it's really green. It's the green solution, frankly, to big energy without carbon footprint. And you assholes are talking it down like it's a huge threat to our existence when all you have to do is do it right. And you have to pay to do it right. And people don't want to pay for anything. So that's the problem. Do it the Trump way. Let Don Jr. handle the nuclear power plants. He's a smart guy. Yeah, give it to Barron.
There's going to be an intergalactic highway built through, and Earth is going to have to be wiped out, and we're going to have 12 seconds notice, just like in Douglas Adams's Hitchhiker's Guide.
But don't we actually perceive things? Don't animals obviously perceive things differently? Each individual, in a way. I mean,
yes.
The perception.
Even human animals perceive things differently. Mm-hmm. So, for example, you probably, both of you, have the full spectrum of colors at your disposal. The visible, what we call visible light, so you can see things like red and green. And
I can't. I'm actually colorblind to some degree. So.
Okay, so two of the three of it.
I'm just flat-ass blind.
Okay.
So here we have three examples of difference.
Yes, we have three examples of people with defective eyes. Great.
This is perception. I can distinguish almost all colors up close, but you get them too far away, like a forest, and I can't pick out any color from the green. Everything looks green. Even the bright orange that anybody around me can say I see as green. And that's a really interesting perspective. And I talked to somebody who's a specialist in perception about that. And she told me that.
Yeah, I know, but that's not the common. The common thing is most of the stuff we do experience very similarly. With the roundness of round and the squareness of square. We can all agree on that crap. I mean, these subtle differences in our functional capacity isn't the similarities are much larger than the uncommonness. There's very few people who think farts smell lovely, and there's very few people who find apples obnoxious. I mean, it's just blah 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 blah.
They interfere with cognitive function, and in many cities we are very, very close to that. The amount of oxygen in the atmosphere has declined significantly since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and that's starting to make us.
I think that's kind of silly again. So I think just a silly argument. Our body just sucks up as much as it needs to get a sufficient amount. I mean, if we were starving for oxygen, we would just breathe. Our respiration would just increase. It's just it's a non-argument. Your body knows how much oxygen it's getting. The only thing would fool it is if there was something added. And like I said, the nitrogen completely fools our system. It just, so other pollutants just aren't relevant. So it's just a bogus argument. You can't make there's not enough oxygen in the room argument. I don't think you'll find any study anywhere where you increase the oxygen in the room, you can prove that it improved anybody or any animal or anything, because it just changes your respiration.
Lack of a better word, stupid.
Yeah, unfortunately, I live in the industrial Midwest, which I think emits more relative to the rest of the USA. Of course, we don't compare to what China's popping out right now. But anyway, it says here, with the grain crop this year was too small, we are facing a global shortage around March. Have you been keeping up on any of this, Guy?
Not nearly as well as my 4,951 Facebook friends are. So thanks to those folks for serving as my research team. I have seen several posts over the course of the last week indicating that the grain crop is significantly lower than anticipated and lower than the average of the last several years.
The grain crop, I don't even know what that means. Does that mean all grains, soybeans, rice, corn, and wheat are all down? I don't think so. I think that's a pile of shit. No, move ahead a little bit.
Or in series, so that we're always behind, so that we're running as fast as we can on the treadmill, and the treadmill keeps going faster, then at some point the system's got to break down. I don't know when that is.
The evidence is the system doesn't break down. Asteroids hit, the system doesn't break down. Whatever, volcanoes explode, the system doesn't break down, blah, 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 blah. So the system doesn't break down. That's the evidence. The evidence is it's really hard to break down the system. The system finds ways to keep the wheels turning, and it shutters down the road. It just keeps moving. So that's what the evidence indicates, is you can't really do anything. These little tugs and pulls aren't going to wipe it out. If you want to wipe it out, you're going to have to blow it up. You're going to have to do it on purpose. You're not going to backdoor your way into extinction.
Or Arctic becomes Atlantic. The Atlantic Ocean and also the Pacific Ocean now are interacting far more intensely with the Arctic Ocean than they were 2 years ago. So, unless we're going to come up with and people are actually talking about this now as if they're serious about it.
Now, let's understand the continents separated and moved across the surface of the earth, and the animals were on them. I mean, you know, not a big deal.
Not only are they talking about geoengineering to deflect and
Jew engineering. Oh, please, let's not even go there. That's kind of funny. I don't know what that was, but it's funny. Sounded funny.
coming light. They're also talking about in the Arctic building ice dams beneath the sea to prevent ice from going out of the Arctic. This is an indication that the civilization is near the end because we have insanity that is coming.
Yeah, it's when it's so much easier just to tie a bunch of ropes around, tie rope to a bunch of the icebergs and the ropes will stop all the other icebergs. Yeah, why not just do it the simple way? It's like the illegal problem, right? Just have a real social security number and don't let people who are illegal work. There, problem solved. Simple solution. So yeah, let's just tie ropes on the, but don't use Chinese rope because it's really bad. With ultraviolet light hits it, it breaks really easy. So no Chinese ropes.
Commonly interpreted as sanity.
We're being taken to task by Slaterdom, who accuses us of avoiding the reality that geoengineering is a possible solution.
Geoengineering? Is that again? What the hell is that? There's no such thing. You can't do any geoengineering. It's against the law or something.
Comments?
I turn yet again for approximately the 9,000th time.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, gee, that's dirty talk. Fuck that shit. We'll move along. Enough of that.
A lot of untoward, irrational human behavior that will make the situation worse. Religion, just like civilization, which is, I would argue, is another religion. All of these religions will...
civilization is religion. So penicillin is religion. Landing on the moon is religion. I don't know. Making an electric car is religion. No, I mean, civilization is figuring out how to do it right. And we've done that really badly. We've done civilization really badly. But there's no comparing civilization to religion. Religion is overtly belief without reason. Civilization is like, do it reasonably. There's two different ways of using the word reasonable. Religion hates reason. Civilization, for most people, is connected to reason.
Produce their outcomes depending upon which sect each of us belongs to.
A couple of funny comments here. Brian Hupel says, the religious I know will shoot liberals.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. I mean,
we'll be shooting them first, I'm telling you. So right as soon as you open the all the rules are off thing happens, people are going to be surprised at how efficient some people are going to be at being son of a bitches. Yeah, I think.
The super religious tend to be in the NRA. A guy and Paul, I always found the NRA kind of ridiculous because they're
going to waste so much time putting on their camouflage and having their, tightening their scopes and doing all this other shit. And I'm just going to throw a dirty, pig shit bomb in their fucking window. They're done. I'll get them before they're even dressed.
You always use this idea that, the government's coming to take their guns away. And yet,
well, if they don't take my SUV away, then I ain't too afraid of their fucking guns.
NRA kind of acts like the government. They have like this big database of addresses from the NRA in one place at the NRA. I mean, they collect all this information. They do the very thing that they complain about, but they're scary people. I would bet the U.S. Marines against them in any type of conflict, but they're scary. I mean, they're like road rage people.
No, they're not. That's all. No, they're not. They're not like road rage people. They're like I said, they're wasting so much time, tweaking their gimmicks and their toys, using guns that are so on the edge of barely functional, that they don't, it's like these mass shooters show up and their fucking assault rifle fails. They should have done it the old fashioned way. Anyway, enough. I don't want to talk mayhem conversations. What the hell happened there? I didn't do that. I know I'm the only one in the room, so I must have done it, but I didn't do it. All right, anyway, it's enough of this, I think. We'll just see if there's some sort of goodbye thing.
Or John Zerzan. Know anything about that?
Yeah, I actually interviewed John for my radio show a few years ago, and I'm an anarchist. I'm not a primitivist, so I'm not an anarchist.
Oh, crap. An anarchist. I mean, right there. So he just basically says, in spite of the fact that I know how to have conversations about certain philosophical concepts and, the fact that human psychology has a certain amount, I'm a complete fucking imbecile and think that somehow you can have a non-system and it'll work like a system. That's right. You can have non-system and it'll work like system. No, that won't happen. Ever, 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 ever. And again, let's understand, it was anarchy that created the nation states. So it's been proven it doesn't work. Ugh. Anyway, that was enough. That was just too stupid. I'm an anarchist. I don't even know how somebody utters the words. Do you really want to say to me, we've declared anarchy, Gary? Because what do you think I'm going to do with my day? Do you think I'm just going to sit at home and just grow some potatoes? And yeah, do you really think so? When it's no rules, Gary. Just do what you want. That ain't gonna. It's not gonna be good for you. I'll just point that out. I mean, unless you want a quick death, it won't be good for you. Yeah, I will kill you all quickly, but you will be killed. I got to do it, and then I'll be cloned, and the whole planet will be Gary. Gary, with lots of Gary. Covering the Gary with Gary. Anyway. Nothing I can say. I mean, I can't believe he would say the word anarchy. I can't believe it when any intelligent person says the word anarchy. It's just too stupid. Okay. So anyway, until next time, when maybe I'll play with the commenters some more. Sorry, I ignored you pretty much. That's the way it happened. I didn't know I was going to make the video. I only made it because it's raining. The weather sucks. I'm pressed. So I said, I'll argue some shit. So, totally unintended. So you get what you get. So anyway, you got what you got. So look at all those Garys. Yeah, that'll be what the world will be like. I'm first, Gary. See, and all the rest of them. That's like 17th Gary. So you can see. Takes a while for the rest of them to do the same thing I do. So that'll make it interesting. Because there'll be immediate Gary, and then there'll be delay Gary, delay, more and more delay. And so that by the time you get all the way around the world, the other Gary will be a few days behind me. And so it'll make us much more interesting because I'll be 4 days smarter than him or something. Yeah. All right, anyway, till next time and such and so forth and whatnot. Let's get the hell out of here some way or other. Stop broadcast. That must be the way you get out. Be nice to have buttons to do that. Stop buttons. Lots of stop buttons. One big stop button. Stop the whole fucking universe.